Moyo wangu waziza kufira Zimbabwe.
These parts in Mashonaland of people, Mujiti.
Yeah.
So when they moved to Bulawayo, she really had a very active life there, teaching. And she was a member of the National Council of Women, as the president of that. People today don't know that in the 50s, there were teachers, young women, who were presidents of the National Council of Women. And that had been a white organization, and they took that, and the professional women took that over. And she joined up with a very brilliant young woman, Helen Vera, Mrs. Mangwende, who started the African Women's Clubs in 1938 at the age of 18.
Wow.
After she graduated at St. Augustine's as a teacher. She was just really upset that her mum at Brayside Police, here in Salisbury, was polishing the buttons of her husband's police clothes and starching them. And she just came from the rural areas without the actual know-how of what made these things. So she started at the age of 18, having graduated as a teacher, the African Women's Clubs under a tree in each, what do you call places where police live? Camp.
Police camps.
Right. The Kuyenza clubs, if you ask them their history, they don't know. This is the history.
Okay.
But then she married Chief Mangwende, a very brilliant young man. He had one arm, Ainz Ruoko, and he gave the whites a very hard time over the land.
Okay.
But he had a very good eye for beauty, intelligence. He married Helen.
Okay.
And he made her register the African Women's Clubs to become a formal institution for development. So my mother teamed up with her. My mother was doing the radio Homecraft Clubs. Every month, one day, our room, the girls' room, was vacated. Edward Moyo, a young man, you know Edward Moyo, who became a PEMSEC. You know him?
Yes, yeah.
As a young man, John Manyarara, who became a judge. As a young man, she had 4 of them, carrying all these radio things to record in our house, Ukubingelelana, which was the African Women's Clubs programs. It's still there today on your...
Yes.
But that started with our mom and her friends as the radio Homecraft Clubs. And they exchanged recipes for sewing, for cooking. They did some wonderful things. And when you see me dressed like this, it's coming from the clubs.
Okay.
I don't know what topics or Edworks or... we don't buy clothes from shops.
Oh.
We buy fabric, and the women's clubs make our clothes.
Oh, up to now?
Up to today.
Wow, okay. That's...
Up to today.
Okay.
When I was home, my mother sewed all my clothes. I never wore ready-made clothes.
Okay.
No, my sisters, we just had our... So the story here is that Helen died when she was 35. She was accused of cooking the books because she was accused of stealing money from the women. The government took all her books.
Okay.
They audited them. When she died, they confessed that these were the best kept books of any organization in the time. But they didn't tell her before she died.
Okay.
With my mom, the white women were very upset that the African women were so well organized.
Yeah.
So they changed her constitution of the Radio Homecraft Clubs, and they expelled her. And she was a driver. She had a car, my father's Chevrolet. And she said, before I go out of my organization, I'm going to sing you a song. Imbila yaswela umsila ngendaba yokulayezela. And she said to these white women in the 50s, you women are just like us women. When you go to the top to talk about what we've told you we want, you'll forget because you'll be talking about your own needs because you're as oppressed as we are by your own husbands. She said, let me tell you what this story is.
Yeah.
She said, God told all the animals to come and get a tail. And all the animals every day went. And on the last day, Lion said to Mbila, you, get off the sun. Let's go and get our tails. Mm-hmm. And Mbila said, you get me the tail. The lion said, okay. When the lion got his tail, he was so fascinated about how beautiful it was. He forgot.
Yeah.
So when he arrived there, Mbila said, where is my tail? Yours is so beautiful. He said, sorry, Mbila, I forgot. So my mother took her car and drove off. And she said, our daughters will never allow you to run our lives as African women in our own country. She left, but she was very hurt because her own clubs were now taken from her. Okay. Lady Treadgold became the new president of the Federation of African Women's Clubs. Okay. That's the story of the African woman.
Yeah.
Excuse me. This story we have told every Tom, Dick, and Harry. Vamgabe got tired of it.
Yeah, you know.